Given that the Harry Potter movies are set in what's generally called a family-friendly universe, there's a surprising amount of death. Even in the first movie, which was comparatively toothless compared to the increasingly dark sequels, includes one of the most disturbing deaths at the end of it. It's all very traumatic. But then, of course, there'd be death in a world ruled by magic, because not everyone can inexplicably use Expelliarmus as well as Harry Potter for all situations. And this isn't even to mention the creative, despicable spells dreamed up by the Dark Wizards. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 12 most deadly spells in the Harry Potter universe. Number 12, Imperio. Imperio is the least direct of the deadliest spells in the Potterverse, but there's something altogether more grim about it at the same time. Because the spell doesn't need to depend on explosions, eviscerations, or even theatrical violence of any sort. It effectively just weaponizes your own brain against you. Used a few times during Harry's 7 years at Hogwarts, the Imperius Curse is mostly notable as the unforgivable curse Harry uses surprisingly casually to break into Gringotts. But as the fake Mad-Eye Moody reminds everyone morbidly in his defense against the Dark Arts class, someone using the curse could just as easily make their target drown themselves as submit to their will. It might not be directly deadly then, but it is a horribly dangerous spell all the same, and can result in some nasty things in the wrong hands. Number 11, Molly Weasley's Curse. While the Weasleys are presented as something of a joke in the wizarding world, at least by those pure-blood wizards who go in for the whole magic is might mentality, they're a prodigiously talented lot. Charlie is one of the world's leading dragon experts, Bill was head boy and goes on to be a curse breaker, and, Ron's a really good goalkeeper. Wow, look at that save, isn't he so good? But it's their mother who is arguably the most powerful of the lot, judging by her use of a spell that seems entirely unique to her. Just as Lily Potter's protection charm on Harry that saved his life wasn't necessarily a recognized spell and was amplified by her love, Molly displays an extraordinary feat of magic in killing Bellatrix Lestrange thanks to the same power source. When Lestrange threatens Ginny, Molly kills her with an unspoken, unidentified spell with no telltale flash of green that kills her. And in the films, the effect is emphasized even more when it makes Bellatrix disintegrate. We still don't know quite what the spell is, but it's clearly a fearsome one. Number 10, Protego Diabolica. Say what you want about Grindelwald, but he was the world's most renowned dark wizard for a reason. His mostly unparalleled powers. In Fantastic Beasts 2, we got to see the extent of those powers thanks to his conjuring of Protego Diabolica in the Lestrange Mausoleum. To test the loyalty of his followers, he casts a circle of blue fire and demands they cross it. Those who don't, quote, pass the test are instantly and painfully burnt to ash. Despite its name though, it's not just a protective charm and can be controlled like fiend fire, including being formed into bestial projections in order to attack and burn enemies alive. No wonder it's got such an ominous name. Number 9, Expulso/Bombarda Maxima. These spells ought to really be grouped together, because they effectively do the same thing and both are variations of exploding or blasting curses. The most memorable example of either of them being used probably comes when Dolores Umbridge explodes a hole in the Room of Requirement to break up the DA's secret training sessions. That's significant because she's breaking into a room magically conceived not to be found or penetrated, being blasted open in the first place. So this is no mere magician's trick. And just think of what such force could do to a body, as Harry almost finds out himself in the cafe in the Deathly Hallows. Had it hit him, or anyone for that matter, it would have exploded them, which, last I checked, is often fateful. Quite how they don't qualify it as unforgivable when used in the right context is anyone's guess, frankly. Number 8, Ntral Expelling Curse. Sometimes flashy Latin words aren't necessary and you get a curse that does exactly what its title suggests. Unsurprisingly, the Ntral Expelling Curse literally expels the victim's entrails out of their body. Somewhat thankfully though, it's not a spell we get to see in the movies. I mean, just think of the mess, but it is mentioned as part of Potter lore. There is some confusion on the spell, however, with some claiming it's not the entrails but their contents that are expelled. So yep, it's a pooping spell, but then why on earth would it be classified as a curse? More likely is the far more ominous alternative. Number 7, Firestorm. It is a well-known fact, not only in the wizarding world, but in all worlds, that fire is dangerous. So imagine a spell capable of conjuring a literal storm of the stuff, and you've got one of the most deadly prospects in all of Harry Potter's universe. It only appears once, but that actually amplifies its impact, particularly as Dumbledore casts the incantation when he's been badly weakened by Voldemort's mysterious toxic drink. If the ferocity of the firestorm he casts then reflects his weakened state, a full-blown version of the incantation would be phenomenal. And while this is not cursed fire, it doesn't make it any less deadly for anyone in its path. Number 6. Confringo. Fire is a running theme in these deadly spells for obvious reasons, and Confringo, rather less eloquently called the Blasting Curse sometimes, joins that particular pile. The spell causes the target to explode and burst into flames, and is a powerful enough spell to be the reason Harry Potter's wand was actually broken. We've seen it a few times in the movies, and there is also a pretty compelling suggestion that it's the spell that Peter Pettigrew used to kill 12 muggles in his attempt to escape the Ministry of Magic. More tangibly, it's the spell Hermione tries to kill Nagini with in Godric's Hollow in the Deathly Hallows, and it's a deadly enough choice to be the one Voldemort also attempted to kill Harry with when he reveals he's alive at the end of the same book. But then, of course, a spell capable of exploding a person probably would be. Number 5. Fiend Fire. And continuing on the fire trend, the most notorious of all fire curses in Harry Potter's world is undoubtedly Fiend Fire, a spell more readily characterized as almost living in comparison to other spells. It is the only spell in all of the books and movies that seems to get out of control of the caster, which makes it one of the most dangerous of all and the least advisable to actually use. But there's no doubting the effectiveness of it. Not only is it powerful enough to destroy a Horcrux, but the cursed fire is also capable of more simple, devastating tasks like roasting people alive, and it does so with a theatricality usually reserved for only the most skilled wizards, with no consideration for the caster either, because it's not exactly like you'd expect Gregory Goyle to be able to wield any magic with such flair. Number 4. Transmogrifian Torture. The minute you add the word torture to the end of anything, you know you're looking at something particularly ominous, and while there is murky history surrounding the Transmogrifian Torture Curse, its legend is even more disturbing than the Cruciator's Curse, or at least the implications of it are. The only time it's ever mentioned in the Potterverse is thanks to Gilderoy Lockhart, who wrongly claims it's what probably killed Mrs. Norris in the Chamber of Secrets. He's wrong because she's not dead, but it's key to qualify that while Lockhart is a liar, he's also a magical expert. Just because he's not particularly great at it doesn't mean he doesn't know it, so we have to assume the torture curse actually exists. All we know is that it tortures its target to death, and the name suggests it's based on the word transmography, to alter to grotesque effect. In other words, twisting a body so much it changes shape and then kills you. Number 3. Engorgio Scullus. Now, having your body twisted out of shape until you die is one thing, but how about having your head swollen to a grotesque size? Well, that's what the Engorgio Scullus hex offers. It's a variation on the simple engorgement charm, targeted specifically on the skull and any surrounding tissue to give the victim a giant bobblehead, like a cheat code from an early video game. It sounds comical, and indeed it exists in the Harry Potter Lego games mostly for that sort of effect, but the implications of its use are pretty horrific, and it would absolutely lead to a deeply distressing death if left uncounted. Number 2, the Sectumsempra Hex. While there's always been a movement to forgive Severus Snape of his sins, it's a little hard to not believe that something was fundamentally wrong with his moral compass, given the fact that he invents the Sectumsempra Hex. Conceived as a means to defend himself against bullies, and used enough to become one of his signatures, the Hex is a particularly brutal means to incapacitate and kill your target, because, grimly, it's not an instant death. The curse instead lacerates the victim and they hemorrhage. Even a glancing blow like the one that hits George Weasley in the Deathly Hallows is enough to make the wound impossible to heal by magic means. Number 1, Avada Kedavra. As the old saying goes, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. For Harry Potter, that was very much the case, but he's a rarity because the Avada Kedavra curse is usually devastatingly efficient in killing its targets. The killing curse is the most unforgivable of the unforgivable curses, so you know it's pretty bad. An extreme measure for extreme requirements, and while Harry resisted it, its potency is unrivaled. Such is its ferocity that the spell kills wizards as powerful as Sirius Black, Albus Dumbledore, and both of Harry's parents, and it tends to be used for dramatic moments such as the deaths of Hedwig and Frank Bryce. And it's rather fitting that it's the spell Voldemort chooses to kill Harry with not once, but twice. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Are these the most powerful, most dangerous spells in the Harry Potter universe in your opinion, or have I missed any off here? While you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.